All right. Hey, Brian, welcome to the show. I am super pumped to have you on the show. The audience is going to be just incredibly educated through this, motivated, inspired, that I hope that you light something under their butts when they go out there changing the world tomorrow. But tell us a little bit about yourself, what you like to do for fun, and what gets you up in the morning.
Oh boy. Okay. Loaded questions. Oh, yeah. I'm originally from the great state of Pennsylvania, where I always tell people out here, you've got a friend. Remember that?
That's it. I do.
So yeah, I grew up in, born in the 60s and lived in the 70s, 80s. And in the 90s, I actually took off, went to Florida, stuff like that. The only reason I tell you that is, when I was up in Missoula, Montana last week and 2 weeks ago, and my God, unbelievable. It truly is amazing up there. But it was one of my friends lives up there. And when we talk about home, we always mean Pennsylvania. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I've been out in California for almost 30 years and hooked up with the company Egoscue, the Egoscue Method, about 30 years ago this year, and never looked back. Because when you're an athletic trainer, exercise science guy, you're going, man, I know a lot. I know everything. But there's really no application for it.
Right.
Like a lot of these kinesiology grads that are coming out now. I have my 4-year in kinesiology and I can't do anything with it. You mean I could have taken a personal training certification over the weekend and done about the same amount of work? So when I look at, what wakes me up in the morning is giving people the opportunity to either live pain-free, limitation-free, and this should sound familiar because you probably wake up doing the same thing, and then also looking at, through our institute, getting people an opportunity who are kind of stuck and going, where can I take this to the next level? And allow their patients, clients, whatever you happen to call them, if you're non-medical, if you're medical, you call them patients, whatever, and allowing them not to feel sick and allowing them not to feel broken. I mean, there's nothing more empowering, and God, I can't stand that word because everybody jumped on it this year. It's like the word pivot, right? Everybody's like, pivoting. Allowing someone and giving them the opportunity to realize they're not broken, they're just slightly bent.
Yeah.
And when they have that opportunity to say, okay, wait a second, you mean I can do something about this? Look, I grew up in PA. I know what small town Pennsylvania is like. Literally, we had 2,400 people in my hometown, and everybody ate the hometown pizza tough. There's nothing like Stromboli in Pennsylvania. God, yeah. I love it, right? Del Grosso, spaghetti sauce. But that kind of stuff, Doc, when you're looking at it, can become cumulative against your body when you don't apply a movement that allows your heel to hit correctly and a toe off when you walk. It's a very simple instruction thing you and I could give to your customer base or anybody that just says, how can I get better? Well, the easy way to get better is to apply a very small stimulus. So when I get up in the morning, of course, I make my bulletproof coffee. I do 4 minutes of exercises, which we'll talk about with your customer base here, which is why I encourage you guys, if you're listening to this driving home, shut it off or listen to it and then turn it back on again at home and watch the video, because the visuals that we're going to give you over this podcast, clients befores and afters, to give them an opportunity to really learn what Egoscue is about. And this isn't about me selling Egoscue. It'll sell itself. And Doc, I gave your assistants all my information in the sense of Instagram, Twitter, Facebook,
yes,
for the Egoscue Method, and for when I call it the Brian Bradley, it's because Brian Bradley was taken by a hockey player for the Tampa Bay Lightning, so he wouldn't sell it to me, so I had to go with the Brian Bradley. So I'm not really that narcissistic. So
that's funny. I found out when I Googled my name, I'm like Aaron Tressler. I'm like, there's a picture, I think for the Mariners, and I'm like, look at that. I'm famous. What's interesting, when you said stuck, and I think every listener can apply this. We're all stuck at certain levels. It doesn't matter if you're running and you're a professional athlete, you still believe you can get better. You're stuck. We deal with a lot of people, and I always tell them, look, you have a God-given potential inside you that's still there. It's like a car that's dirty. Just wash it, and all of a sudden you'll see the true color. I just told a lady this morning, it may have been 5 or 10 years ago, but you had an amazing, healthy body. And I said, you come here broken, you feel broken. I said, it's just like you said, bent. It's just damaged a little. We got to return it, restore it. and my goodness, life is going to be transformed. So tell the listeners, let's go back to the Egoscue method. First of all, it's a very hard word to say when you first looking at it. Like, what is this? You try typing it, you get it wrong. We're going to have all these links, but Egoscue, how did this kind of come about, and how did that become your passion?
Yeah, that's a cool question. Pete Egoscue is a Marine Corps major, because once a jarhead, always a jarhead, right? You can't say we were.
Right.
Very interesting gentleman I ran into in 1990-ish, 91 in Florida when we opened up a clinic with Jack Nicklaus on PGA National. I had no idea. Remember, I knew everything, which means I knew nothing.
Right.
But I knew everything coming out with my athletic training, exercise science. And by the way, I went to Pitt for a year, did not go to pharmacy school, thank God, and ended up transferring to IUP.
Yeah.
And basically the discussion at this point when I ran into him was, how did this whole thing start? And when you hear the story of in Vietnam, he ran into a woman going through the jungle with his group of guys that he was with. I don't know what size, whether platoon size or group size, whatever it was. And the guy in front puts his fist up, everybody drops. And they see this lady take a rice bin off the top of her head, set it down on the ground, unwrap herself, squat down and give birth to a child, pick the baby up, wrap herself up, the baby in with her, picks the rice up and walks back to her village. At that point, the idea that the body could do anything is possible came to mind, and that stayed with him. Huh. And then when he took injuries, AK-47 and grenade shrapnels on his left hip, left leg, left knee, after about a year and a half of going through the allopathic world, medically, they just said, we think it might be like a PTSD, something's in your head about this. So in his mind, he's an angry Marine at this point. Right. You got to be freaking kidding me that I've done this and now I got to live with this. So in his mind, he's like, no, I got to try to do something. He picks up Gray's Anatomy, which if anybody in the medical world ever read anything, that's not the book to learn from. No. You know, in the sense of not the easiest. But it started teaching him, wait a minute. If my foot is turned out like this and my other one's not, when all your listeners look down at their feet right now and they're standing and they see that one leg is flared out and the other one's not, they better be asking a question, why or what if? Excuse me, I'm going to put this on Do Not Disturb. Okay. And so this whole thing started because of a Vietnam War injury. And in 1971, the method was born when Pete Egoscue finally said, if my body deviates from that design, feet straight, shoulders level, hips level, knees straight, and from the side view, a plumb line going from your ankle straight up into your ear, which was very interesting. And I'll show you some pictures as we go along. Just those two little things right there changed the way that I looked at the human body, where I was a symptom chaser. Oh, your ankle hurts? Let's look at your ankle. I worked for Health South in Florida for 2 years. Oh, if your back hurts, you must have a back injury. Versus functionally, back in the 90s, that word never existed. Mm-hmm. We used to use the word on NSCA, Strength and Conditioning Association meetings, and we talk about functional strength, and everybody just gave you that Labrador Retriever head tilt, like, what? But now if you mention it, everybody and their mother understands it. You know, with the Kelly Starretts and the Gray Cooks and the Gary Grays and all these people that talk this stuff, the TPIs and functional medicine and functional rehab have come a long way. I can flat out tell you, I remember the day that Pete Egoscue said to me, I need your help in disseminating that message, because we can't be the only ones who know this, because that means there's a boatload of people who will never have the opportunity to live pain-free. And it was very cool because the guy had found something non-medically trained and said, we have to share it with the medical world. And Kelly Starrett and Gray Cook are, you know, FMS and the functional, what does he have? He has the supple leopard. They said, without Pete Egoscue not having blinders on, coming in, no medical training, allowed him to see the whole picture. So when somebody says, I have TMJ and can't open up my mouth, can't get 3 fingers in, and you look at the jaw that it articulates down and over to the right instead of just down, his whole answer is, you sprained your ankle 6 months ago and you did nothing to turn the same side hip on because the hip shut off to protect the ankle. And now you're going to the chiropractor to try to have them solve the problem when it's going to take you facilitating muscular use to make that chiro's job easier.
Right.
So this whole thing started in 2 ways. Watching that woman give birth sparked the idea that the body's capable of anything in recovery. Secondly, the injury in Vietnam really opened up his eyes to, I've got to do this myself. And here we are in 2020, and it's clinics all over the place and certification, with people. Unfortunately, I don't think I have anybody in the Pittsburgh area, which, hey, by the way, if anybody's listening, I need a clinic in Pittsburgh. Let's go.
Yes. And from what I've seen so far, and I looked it up and I thought, should I get certified in this? Because there's no clinic. The closest one's in Philly and Virginia, I believe. I'm like, okay, I don't have time to do this, but I'm going to start integrating it. And I went to Slippery Rock. I was a health and phys ed teacher first. And when I graduated there, I would get so pissed at the whole viewpoint of, you're a gym teacher. I'm like, you know what? We teach a part of the education that's incredible. It stimulates the brain, the body. Without the body and health, I was so frustrated my first few years thinking, why don't people listen to this? And that's when I got turned on to chiropractic and I wanted to do more. And then I found my way into chiropractic. But I've always had, and when I saw the work you do, it's always been part of what I've done and what I believe in. So I'm really curious and interested to learn more on this, because they work hand in hand. And I get, it's frustrating for me as a chiropractor when I ask my patients, hey, you're doing anything at home? They're like, well, I walk a little. I'm like, you doing anything more than walking? And I try to give them structural, postural positions and moves, and they're just not sure what to do, or it hurts and they stop. And without their help,
today, we can give them something very simple. Even the 4 minutes of stuff that I did on the Bulletproof podcast with Dave, where we just do the arm circles, the elbow curls, and the overhead extension. If they just did that, but it's critical to talk about the foot position, which we will. Look,
yeah, let's do it.
Neurologically, here's a, say 12, 13-year-old girl, 2 weeks apart before and after.
Wow.
Her doing the work. And if you're telling me, I mean, I know you're not, but if somebody was saying, well, wait a second, I'm permanent, I'm broken, I'm this, I'm that. No, it's time to shelve those excuses. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have them. Society allows us to have it, love it. But now you're at a crossroad. Do I go left and buy into the idea that I'm broken and, I'm permanent, not much we can do. I better eat more food because that'll make me feel better. I better slow my lymphatic system down and gain weight and think that I'm getting fatter, F-A-T-T-E-R, when really they're getting P-H-A-T-T-E-R, because their lymphatic system is blocked up and all that lymphatic is just fluid. Or we go right and we say, you know what? That made sense what those guys were talking about. I think that if I walk around with my hands on my head, my elbows pulled back, my back pain feels better. Yeah, I look like a dork. I get it. But I walk around like that, my back pain goes away. And you know what? I'm down 2 pant sizes. How did that happen? Because you're moving again. And I mean moving. We're not talking about muscular movement. We're talking about bone growth. We're talking about nervous system response. We're talking about your plumbing system getting better on the inside. Shoulders dictate everything as it relates to whether your hip or your core are going to fire. So when someone says to me, well, I do core work. Really? What do you do? Well, I train my abs and my back. Oh, really? Isn't that interesting? Well, there's a muscle called your psoas muscle. Just going to separate it from all other muscles, but it's the only one that attaches from your leg through your pelvis and into your lower back. Name me another muscle that traverses that complex. Mm-hmm. They don't. They go in chains. Erector spinae, sacrotuberous ligament, hamstring, glutes. Those are all segments. This is a muscle that crosses, and it's that sling muscle that once it's firing, then the circuit breaker is back on. But if your shoulders are unlevel or rounded forward on one side versus the other, then there's no way that works. So like, for example, the people listening or watching this could go to a mirror, hit pause if you have to, go to a mirror, take off your shirt, shut the drapes in your house first, because I don't need your neighbors are going to call the cops, whatever. But stand in front of your mirror and look at your shoulders, look at your hand position, and notice that they're not the same. They're not equilateral or balanced left to right. Then look down at your foot and you'll see that one foot might be turned out more than the other and collapsed in on the inside. Those are findings that you, doc, would look at it and go, well, we have this, and then you're going to go, okay, well, let me check T6, T7. Oh, we have a sublux vertebrae here. Oh, your C1, 2 are really compressed. You're going to go at the medical route, but imagine what the customer could do if they walked into your office after correcting their posture. It would allow your evaluation to take them to a completely different level.
Right. And what gets, I think, stuck on my part is I'm trying to change the spine, and I'm making changes on the spine. We'll see before and after changes. But if the muscle structure is blocked or imbalanced and they don't support that in certain things, which I'm not a master at yet, and I'm gonna get better at this because I'm really intrigued by what you do because it works together, is their X-ray only changed so far and they get stuck. And I try to adjust through that, but I know there's another component. So I do gross muscle exercise. I try to add things in, spinal movement. And again, it only goes so far. So these things are critical. And that's why I was just super pumped to have you on, because it's going to up my game. And I think anyone listening, like you said, they can do these things at home, or at least identify, holy cow, I have an unbalanced shoulder. What does this mean? Let's go investigate that. Find somebody to help you.
Well, you just mentioned the x-rays only go so far, and you're a healer. So how does it feel? How does it feel to you to fail your customer? Now, I'm using that word on purpose, but because you're not failing them. But in your mind, your perception is, I failed them because I didn't get them to where I thought I could get them. What does that feel like?
Yeah, it sucks. And it's very frustrating. And it gets, as a competitor, I get like, dang it, I'm going to hit them harder. And I'm like, okay, I don't have to hit them hard. We got to attack it harder.
That's right. Maybe come at it from a different angle instead of hitting them harder.
Right. And that's what I think. Okay, what else can I learn? So that was the first thing I thought is I should get certified. And I looked at the certification. I said, okay, back off. Let's start going at this, but let's start implementing it.
Now, there's another way you can do this. This grid that's behind me.
Yeah.
I get one of those put in your office. You have your CA or anybody else take the photograph of the person, front, back, left, right. You send it to me. I send you back the set of exercises exactly for them, specifically personalized for them. And I have a fee tied to it. You can make it either part of your stuff or you charge a fee on your end. I don't care what you do. It'll be the amazing adjunct to what you're doing, and you don't have to do any certification.
I love it.
You literally run almost like a remote. This was an amazing picture because this is, and I love these. I keep them on my phone for it's more of a discussion, but this older gentleman, as you can see, he's older than both of us.
Wow.
But that's his before and after, bend over, touch your toes, hanging position. Look at his scoliosis in his mid-back.
Incredible. How long of a time period was that?
Day one.
What?
Day one.
So people, if you're hearing this in your car,
why did I get to call you back?
If you're hearing this in your car, you've got to look at the videos, because you will be. I'm shocked, and I see this as chiropractor. I see these kind of changes, but day one.
Now, will it hold is the question. It's a. I'm trying to find this X-ray picture for you because you mentioned X-rays.
Well, even if it doesn't hold first day, you just made a profound change in their neurology in their body that will trigger a response. And that's, the body changes because we're reprogramming it. Well, you just reprogram.
5-year-old male.
Boom. That's incredible.
Here's another one. This was before and after in my Tokyo clinic.
Wow.
She's not perfect.
Oh,
but that's 78 years young in 90 minutes.
Life-changing.
That's why, I don't know if you're into UFC, but I know a lot of your listeners might be into UFC because Look, remember, I grew up in Pennsylvania. There's not much to do when the snow's falling outside, but watch TV sometimes, right? That's why everybody says to me, why is wrestling so good in Pennsylvania? I'm like, have you ever spent winter in Pennsylvania? Guys, there's no beach. You're not going surfing. There are no choices. So you get on the mat and boom, you grapple. Great
Yeah.
sport, by the way. So you look at someone like Conor McGregor. Well, McGregor in the Khabib fight, and I'll show you this picture of him when he went up against Khabib, because everybody remembers this and says, oh, he got crushed by Khabib. Yeah, he had no chance. He was going to do, or Habib, whatever the guy's name is. And I'm sorry for mispronouncing it if I did. But everybody was saying he had no chance. Well, he had zero chance. And they think it's because Khabib is a better grappler, better fighter. That's untrue. He had an unfair advantage. Conor went in looking like that. And just look at the photograph of the mid, back, and shoulders. How are you expected to breathe? If you go back and look at this fight and look at him after the first 5 minutes, it was unbelievable. He couldn't, everything was north-south, couldn't take a breath.
Right.
So I took video, took pictures, took still shots, sent it to my good friend, Tony Robbins, and said, bro, you got to get this out to his camp. I don't know how you're going to do it. Go through Joe Rogan. They're like, yeah, they don't really get along. So we'll go through his camp. So we got it to his camp, and 6 months, 8 months later, a year later, whatever, I get the call. Are you available to get out to Vegas? I'm like, let's see. Who's it for? Well, it's for Conor. Yep, I'm on a plane. So 1 hour flight. I'm over there working with him at the UFC headquarters over there. And all I said to him was this: you had no chance against Khabib. Don't hit me. Don't hit me. But you had no chance. Let me tell you why. And I said, he cheated. He legally cheated. His body was here and your body for some reason was there. Meaning you're training on a bicycle, which turns your feet out like this, rounds your back over, and you get no hip extension where your leg goes behind you like in a walk or a run or anything else. Very simply, all I did was reverse that. And I said, throw a couple punches, boom, boom, boom. Okay, great. In that position, now I moved him with an exercise, which brought him right back to straight that quickly. And he threw 3 more punches. He looked at his group of guys and said, did that look different? Because it felt completely different. Bought in right away. The guy is so smart. And 12 days later, he wins in 44 seconds.
Wow.
So I only tell you this because whether it's my Major League Baseball players, football players, hockey, MMA guys, Chuck Liddell, they buy into it going, this is the unfair advantage. So why wouldn't a mother at home listening to this who thinks this might be just for pro athletes when she's a pro athlete?
Right.
Her sport is work, husband, kids, house, because we know without her, the house is going into shambles. We know how that works. Guys are just dogs. That's what
Everything.
we are. You're right. But it's a very simple change that she could make, realizing, and can you imagine the unfair advantage that she's giving to her kids?
Right.
So I got to show you one more thing. And this is not me being, this is a kid that I was training since the age of two, actually since the age of 8 months. Tell you how you train a kid at 8 months. 8, 9 months, they want to stand up, don't they?
Right.
They want to start crawling. Great, let them crawl. Right about a year, the kid wants to grab a hold of you and go to the standing position and take his or her first steps. Why is that a mistake? A huge mistake.
You know, their spines, I would imagine their spine's not ready and they're not capable to hold it. So their spine starts to shift and curve because they don't have the muscle structure to hold it.
You're right. And notice where you went was right to your field of work, correct? You went right to your expertise.
Right.
But Doc, let's go simpler. Let's remember, come down to dumb for a second. Okay. Come back to me, right? And just say, what's the benefit of crawling?
I think
not spinal.
I'm thinking brain and cross training and hips and
100%.
Okay.
The cross patterning, creating a movement pattern, a primal neural exercise. Like you go back to Vojta's work, Pavel Kolaj, who's now doing the DNS work in chiropractic, all that's based on primal movements from Vojta. So here's an elite little soccer team in Pittsburgh, in California. Look at their builds versus the one with his back to you. They're all the same age, 14 years young.
Yeah.
Okay. 0 weightlifting on that kid. Because when I was raising him, I raised him like I grew up in Pennsylvania, which was, if you come home for dinner early, you're grounded. Get out of the house, go climb a tree, jump into the leaves, shovel snow for a living. That's what we used to do. We used to farm live, that kind of stuff. That's such a massive benefit. Now think about inner city Pittsburgh, same kind of idea. Those kids are more functional because they walk everywhere, they're doing whatever. And I'm not talking race. You go to any color of person you want. But if you're living in that area where my dad did, he grew up and his dad was a Pittsburgh city cop. And they grew up running, jumping, climbing, hopping, crawling, and he was the fastest white boy in the city. With tryouts for the Steelers and the Colts, played at St. Vincent College, all that stuff. The reason I tell you this is that you could give your kids an unfair advantage by allowing them to play again, not work one sport from day one. My kid's going to be a soccer player and that's all they do. You want to talk about creating an imbalance because they choose one leg to kick with. They don't choose both legs unless they have some great coaching. But here's that same kid in a 200-meter run that same year, first time ever running on the track, meaning a track meet. He's on the inside in the back in the white shirt. That's a 200-meter run.
He's flying.
He won by 45 meters.
Oh my gosh.
Because I told him,
real. That is cool.
Because his shoulders were in the right place to allow his arm to dictate momentum and his legs caught up. Because when your legs move, they're supposed to move like this with your shoulders, the same type of circle. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Left arm, right leg, right arm, left leg. That's what they do. But if the shoulder and the elbow are sitting in this position, then what you do is you get tighter here, start to do this, you lose the momentum going back, and then all of a sudden this gets tighter, this gets looser, and you're doing this weird combobulated running, and people are going, yeah, you just don't have it. This kid now plays D1 soccer, and I had talks with him. I'm like, you realize that as you were growing up, I was training you every single day. Because let's go back to crawling. At 1 year, he wanted to get up and walk around. And I gave him a little pat in the back of the head. Don't tell CPS. I gave him a little pat in the back of the head and knocked his butt right over again. But then I got down on the ground because the only reason why he wanted to get up is because we were up there. So everything in his life we put on the ground. I bought those tubes that accordion together. They're little play tubes.
Yeah.
Got 2 of them. And I crawled through it. He followed me. I was a lot thinner then, so I could actually get through it. But we would joke around and go, let's put his food at the other end and he's got to earn it. Crawl through it and get your food. And I swear to God, dude, he did it. And the crawling built that mechanism of cross patterning, left leg, right arm, left arm, right leg. That's why you walk with opposites like that. And we gave him such an unfair advantage that he runs a 4.4 and never really had to train for it because I brought Pennsylvania to California. That's the mentality I said, which was, you've got to start thinking that the way you work creates the way you think, creates the way your nervous system responds, creates how much easier you can create the work for your hands-on practitioner like you, Doc. I dare your customers to put you out of business. Quit getting hurt. And then they start coming to see you because of the way I use a chiropractor. Because I want to, not because I have to.
Yeah,
just do a little bit of work to create a different movement.
And that's my clientele is more that once they understand it. And I love that because we're meant to move and we're meant to be alive 80 to 120 years. And it's interesting. I still play rugby. I'm 54 and I just had a game last weekend. And because of COVID, I think our season's over. We had 2 games. I'm like, I'm kind of glad the season's over. I'm banged up. And I look at this, from my perspective and I say, I want to build the patch. Maybe we'll talk about that. I want to build some things at my farm they will continue giving me the advantage to play with these 20 and 30-year-olds, because it gets harder every year. As they get younger and stronger, I get a year older. But I don't believe that age has anything to do with this if our body's functioning properly.
I just showed you 2 photographs of 70-year young, 78 and 75-year young male and female who responded very quickly. Why? Let's say we're in chiropractic school, and I said to you guys as graduating seniors, before you leave, I just have a question for you. Why is it easier to help the older population than it is the younger population? Why is it easier to help a 78-year-old female right now than a 16-year-old female right now? Who's the better athlete?
Well, I would think the 16-year-old.
Yeah, but you're wrong. Because they're growing up in the year 2020. They were basically born with a cell phone in their hand.
Right.
Their head's been hanging looking at it for the past 4 years, creating that cervical position.
Right.
Creating the thoracic spine rounding even more because it has to hold up a 65-pound melon looking down at that phone every day. They have no attention span. I'll take the 65, 75-year-old male athlete because their body remembers climbing trees, jumping into the pile of leaves, all that stuff, which I want to tell you, I grew up with 3 sisters and a brother. And one of my sisters used to rake the leaves, but she'd always leave the metal rake in there and let me jump. God. Yep. I still
loved you.
I'll get her to listen to this, and yeah, she'll remember.
Yeah, it's been an epidemic the last few years. And I teach in some of the schools about this forward head, this rounded shoulders. It's called digital dementia. The right side of the brain is becoming shut down. And these kids, I'm so tempted to put a box in the front office, say no cell phones beyond this point. Put the stupid phone down. Stop walking around my office where I'm trying to fix your spine and posture, and you're sitting there looking at your phone the whole time. You are right. It's a muscle memory pattern that starts probably as soon as they can get on a computer at 2-3 years old, and they're being hunched over.
That is, you've got to get them to sit down with their parents and watch Netflix, the Social Dilemma movie. You want to change your mind about Facebook, Twitter, everything else. Every decision that you make online is tracked. Every single one. And the benefit of every single one of being tracked is that, yeah, okay, hey, really cool. I was looking at a gun case or something like that. And you're going, okay, wait a second. Now there's ads for gun cases coming up. Wait a second.
Right.
Because they're meeting your needs on the algorithm. When you see the Social Dilemma movie, the one thing you can do is turn off all notifications. The guy who invented artificial intelligence is on there. Dreads, he kind of looks like Jabba the Hutt, for those of you who are Star Wars fans. He literally looks like that dude. But at the end, he says, well, if there's only one thing you can do is turn off all notifications. I did it that day. And my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, messaging, Facebook Messenger, email, my other email, that's 7 notifications that were getting a hold of me to tell me you have a notification. Now imagine every hour, 3 of those going off.
Mm-hmm.
That's 21 an hour. Not at the same time, which meant I was constantly going, yeah, hold on 1 second. Ooh, wow. Pickup Sticks is giving me free chicken today if I buy another. Are you kidding me, dude? And the reason why you're having trouble with it is it creates that hormonal release in the brain that says, give me more crack, give me more drugs, give me more. It's created that need for them, which has created the snowflake generation we're dealing with. And I love these kids. Don't get me wrong. My house is the center point of my kid when he was in middle school and high school. They all came here. Now, selfishly, I did that because I wanted to see A, who he's hanging out with, B, who he's dating, and C, who are the other little kids that are around, and do I need to take somebody's head and bounce it off the table once or twice? Just to, metaphorically, I'd never say to do that for real. So, it's one of those things, Doc, where you're looking at it going, you'll get frustrated unless you accept it. So instead of getting frustrated and saying, put the phones down, NLP it. I'm addicted to my phone too. I love it. And I don't even mean addicted in a negative way, Joe, if I'm talking to a little kid. Joe, I don't mean addicted in a negative way. I mean, it's really cool to have a computer in your hands that seconds as a phone. Oh, yeah, okay. So you love yours too. Yeah. Hey, are you playing Xbox? Yeah. You playing Minecraft? Yeah. Are you playing Call of Duty? Yeah. Are you doing this? Yeah. Well, that's awesome. What I did is I went the other direction. I gave my kid 12 hours a day of Xbox if he wanted it. And it broke the mold of the need for Xbox. Because when I wasn't fighting him, he's not fighting me. I did the same thing with sweet cereal. I did the same thing with sweet cereal, staying up late with video games, and just said, yeah, play it, no big deal. Oh, you want some Fruity Pebbles? Yeah, have it. Oh, you want McDonald's? Yeah, go ahead and have it, no problem. And now when he's in college, he's not that kid that says, I got to have all this stuff because I was so held from it before, which is why do you think people black out in college with alcohol? Because Americans don't allow their kid to taste beer at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, which is disgusting, by the way. I can't stand it. And I played 5 years of rugby, so I can't believe I'm even saying that, right? You guys are beer drinkers. But Doc, it comes down to the psychological switch has to meet the need of the customer. And my son was a customer of mine. I had needs that I wanted him to do, but I couldn't force it. So I just changed the need. I met it, and then he helped me change his need. And I will tell you, here's a book on, your the psoas muscle, right? But those different color chakras around the body is what this book talks about via yoga, all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
And I grew up in small town Pennsylvania. This book would go, you'd be a little bit, okay, really? That's a little foofy. It's a little Southern California. But when you really look at what especially this one does, it's a game changer, flat out game changer. And it's about this muscle. Great book, by the way. The psoas muscle, that long strand all the way from the spine to the leg. When we can wake that up, it's even better. Hey, do you real quick, I'm going to turn this video off and just change shirts real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. I'll be right back. But keep talking because I'm here.
Okay. Well, as you're listening to this, you can tell that Brian is a master at this. He's passionate. And what I love is, as a chiropractor, we're always looking at, can we balance the nerve system? Can we balance the spine, balance the nerve system so we can perform better? Not only muscles, but the nerves also from your spine, they go into your organs, into your lymphatic system. So 90% of the nerve supply is controlling organ function. 10% is controlling muscle. So many of us get caught up on, well, okay, let me just get rid of muscle pain. But, I have acid reflux. I have asthma problems. Like my wife had chronic asthma problems. So there we go, steal it. So let me just finish this last sentence. And as my wife got her spine aligned, the nerve system improved, her asthma not only improved, it was gone. And this is what Brian's talking about, is when we have balance to our spine, it's not just a muscle thing. This is a whole body thing. And if your body is out of balance, if your foot, knee, hip, whatever is out of balance, we'll probably get a little bit deeper here and go through some exercises. Your body will never function properly. Your organs, your lymphatic system, your brain will never function properly. Brian, I don't know if you've ever seen this info from Roger Sperry. He was a Nobel Prize winner in 1981 for brain research. And he discovered that 90% of the nutrition to the brain comes from spinal movement. And like you're saying, if something's locked up or the psoas isn't functioning, the hip, knee, ankle, and the spine and the forward posture, you're not pumping any fluid to the brain. Dementia, Alzheimer's, all this stuff is happening. So this goes way beyond, okay, can I play sports when I'm 50? Can I ride my bike or play kids? This is about life. So Brian's back with his Steeler shirt. So I love it.
Look, it's Ward. I got it. It's Ward.
There you go.
All-time great. I have probably your greatest tight end of all time. And I know Ward, these kind of stuff, but Mark Bruner's been a client of mine forever, and one of the greatest athletes I worked with. So I have one of his jerseys upstairs I have an office up there that has like 5 or 6 jerseys, like John Lynch's Super Bowl jersey, Pro Bowl jersey, all that. And the reason for that is that these guys, when I got them as clients, You don't get kids with attitudes when their body is starting to shut down. And when you can unleash the true athlete within and get them to be balanced from the hip out, then what you're just talking about, just think about what you just quoted. 90% of all brain nutrition comes from spine movement. And if people could just feel that statement alone, feel it, don't just hear it, feel it, understand it. Wow, am I feeding my brain? No. You're looking down at your phone all day long.
Yeah.
And it's not going to go away. Looking down at your phone isn't something that I'm saying stop doing. I'm going to look at it this way. Let's train for the sport of sitting. Let's train for the sport of looking down at our phones. So that football, rugby, you go out there and run and boom, there's nothing more hard hitting. I played 5 years of it. I love it. Played football in high school. I rode the bench a lot. Okay. But it was you look at it and say, when you take those concussions, the body's a little sore for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, or you recover faster. That's what I mean by recover faster for the sport of sitting, recover faster from the sport of rugby, recover faster for the sport of looking down at your phone. Now, how do you do that? And you let me know when you want to get up and do some exercises. I'll take you guys through 3 exercises that can really, really make a difference.
Yeah, I'll say let's do that now, because my next question, you just dove into it, is people are sitting at their computer for 10, 12, 14 hours a day and their phone and whatever. And they always say to me, well, how do I stop that? I tell them you can't. And okay, doc, I'm on my feet all day on a hard concrete floor. How do I change that? I'm like, well, you get a new job. I said, you don't have to change your job. You can, but most likely you're not going to. And we're in this world. I said, so you have to prepare. And you just said exactly what I think. You have to prepare your body to do the job. You have to get in shape. If I didn't train 6 days a week, and I do I can't wait to add in this new stuff. If I didn't train the way I train and meditate and breathe and eat organic food and take my collagen, and I do the Bulletproof every day. I love it. And I don't do a high fat diet. If I didn't do all this stuff, I wouldn't be able to play. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. That's how we have to look at jobs. So can we, and I think you're going to like explain this, can the audience, they're sitting at their computer, can they do some exercises before, during, after the day that stops their body from this repetitive behavior and keeps them healthy and alive, so they don't end up 20 years on the job, they're hunched and I think that's what they think. They're never going to get out of this. I'm like, if you train a few minutes a day, you'll stop the pattern from forming.
100%. I mean, literally 100%. And I'll tell you how I can say that with such confidence. You're talking to probably the most selfish human on the planet. I will not put up with drama in my life. I will not do something that's a waste of my time or effort. Just not going to happen. Sorry. Having said that, if I wasn't getting the benefit of those exercises, I wouldn't be bleeding this method and being the pretty face out there, which I'm sorry, but this is the face you get. Sorry. So apologize. The reason I say this is that, I travel the world, spoken, 15 to 20 countries. We just did an event with Tony Robbins in Florida. In the last 90 days, we've spoken to 700,000 people in a Zoom studio that he has in Florida. I mean, it's on maybe six to 700,000. It's unbelievable. We're in COVID-19. Breathing's kind of important. But if you're taking a breath, and if everybody who's watching this can just sit up, relax in your chair for a second, don't even try to sit up straight, just relax, and just take a breath, take a 30% larger than normal breath. If you watch my shoulders, there's a minimal change in height. And I'm trying to sit in a shitty position. I'm trying to stay bent over. I'm not doing this. So I'm just going to sit here like this. Here's what most people are doing. They're rocking north and south, thinking that's going to make them more functional. Well, that was Conor McGregor. If you go back and watch his Khabib fight, first round, he sits down, he's heaving, because the diaphragm sits right here and there's no way it's contracting downward to create that negative pressure to fill the lungs with more air because he's collapsed on it.
Yeah.
And then we get on a stationary bike and think that's how we're going to lose weight. Forget it. That's why you're not happy with your results. At some point, the insanity label has to be put on that action.
Yeah.
So let's look at it as the sport of sitting is not going anywhere. So just train for it. Yeah. How about the people who go to bed and can't fall asleep for 2 hours and they wake up every hour and their body never really goes into that deep REM sleep? Train for the sport of sleeping. Do your exercises right before bed. I promise you a change in your sleeping pattern that night. And long term, absolutely a game changer.
I love it.
These 3 exercises I'm going to run you through. There's a critical component to it, which is your foot position. All the work's going to be at the shoulders. All the action is going to be at the shoulders. But there's a reaction down the chain, and it's to turn on the circuit breaker. That long muscle. But it attaches right here to the leg.
Yeah.
So what does, and this is not an anatomy course for you, but I want the customer thinking, by taking my feet from 45 degrees turned out to 5 degrees slightly pigeon-toed, that's interesting. He's turning my feet in because that muscle attaches to my leg on the inside. It pulls the muscle and activates it, not stretches it. Total waste of time. Wait till I tell you this one. Flexibility training is garbage.
Thank you.
Garbage.
Thank you.
Absolute garbage.
I hate it. I even with rugby, I do more movement and I get my blood flowing, and I've always done that. I just hated static stretching. And I look back over the years and I've had so many injuries to my body. And even one time when I broke my ribs, I was back playing rugby in 2 weeks. And my wife thought I was insane. I said, "Hun, I'll heal. I'll be fine. I know what to do." And I never, patients ask me, "Should I stretch?" I'm like, "You can if you want." I said, "You're asking the wrong guy," because I hate it. So, all right, you confirmed it. Thank you.
No, it is. It's even when somebody says to me, "Can you stretch a muscle?" I'll let you answer that question if you want to, but I'm going to tell them, no, you're not actually stretching muscle tissue. You're not going to say, let's lengthen that muscle.
Yeah.
You're either getting the muscle to contract or release, contract or relax. And even when it's relaxed, there's a certain amount of tension in the muscle because the bones are in a certain position to feed that tension. So just stop stretching. But you better replace it with something that gives you a long-term ability to check your flexibility. So before we start, we'll check where their balance is. Then I'll ask them to very slowly, without hurting themselves, without bouncing, without forcing it, what happens when you bend over to touch your toes? Can you? No, I'm touching my knees. Exactly. And wait till we're done with the 3 upper body exercises. Then we're going to check it again. You'll be able to go 50% further or all the way down. And did we stretch you? No, we repositioned your upper back to allow your pelvis to become the mover to take you over. And what I mean by that is, let me give you a visual of a lady that I worked with 5 years ago who, it was an amazing picture. This is her before and after in 12 hours.
Wow.
The picture where she can barely get halfway down her shin, you can see that the upper back right around the bra line is doing the reaching.
Yeah.
Whereas the one in the green shirt, her pelvis actually hinged downward.
Yeah.
This was from upper body work. She had not been able to touch her toes ever, and she's in her 50s. Ever. Never touched her toes.
And that's all done without stretching, right?
100%. And she's crying in front of me. Her daughter's laughing at her like, this is fun. Because the daughter saw the success, brought her over, and the mom was like, yeah, whatever. And I said, come back tomorrow morning and tell me what happened. And she comes up and gives me a hug. She's crying. I go, what are you doing? I go, did it hurt? Joking with her. And she goes, no, she bent over, touched her toes. And I said, well, I will not give you the reaction of, well, you can touch your toes. It's no big deal. No, to her, it was a game-changing experience. just like Conor had a game-changing experience fighting Cowboy versus Khabib. You know, these athletes, Cole Hamels in his 30s throwing 90 miles an hour for the Cubs. That's not a fluke. The kid does his work. Gardner Minshew, Jacksonville Jaguars. The kid is a freak. He trains like an NFL linebacker or running back. He doesn't train like a QB. All of the Niners, they get it because John Lynch, being the GM, having worked with him since high school, he got it. Which I can't let him see me wearing this jersey or I'm in trouble. So I'm gonna let you know. But I've always been a Stiller fan.
Exactly.
Stiller fan since we were young. You know, that's all there is to it.
Pittsburgh has its own little twang language. And when I moved to Florida, when I was a phys ed teacher, I moved to Florida. And the first thing I said to somebody is, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" And they're like, "What?" And I said, "What are you doing?" And we use this term "yuns." And they all looked at me and I said, "I'm never using that again."
That's okay. What about this one? Where are you going? Up there. Where? Up there. I'm like, oh, up there.
Yeah.
Because when you leave it, I love hearing it. Like, to me, I can't stress it enough for you guys who are from PA. I grew up right near a state park called Black Meshannon State Park. It's unbelievably beautiful. Like, to the point where they're taking pictures out there. You want to see the fall, go to Pennsylvania in the fall. Mm-hmm. It is unbelievable. Plus, it's football season, that crisp air, you know, all that stuff. It's one of my favorite times of the year. And for those of us who grew up there, we get it. For those of you that are there and you think you're stuck, move away for a while. You'll miss it and want to come back.
It is a beautiful place. And it's funny, I lived in Florida for 3 and in Atlanta, I did my schooling for 4. Never thought I'd come back because of the winters, but I came back as a family and it's, I love it. It doesn't bother me. I love it. So let's dive into these exercises. I'm real curious. I'm sure the listeners are sitting there going, oh, 3 exercises, you know, and I've always been a fan of movement and not stretching. And I'm still pretty flexible. And I have, you know, 2 rotator cuff tears, broken scapula, ribbed 3 times. I've had a lot of injuries, yet I still have all my flexibility. I have no joint pain. I have no chronic issues. So things like this, you know, you don't have to go out and work out for an hour. I mean, that's old school, but we got to start implementing movement in our body. So what are the 3 things? I mean, if we have enough time, I'd like to even get into the low back stuff, or I'll have all these links because the stuff you're doing, I've implemented it. Just real quick before we do this. So I've had this dull ache in my low back. I had a real strong pelvic tilt. I had a really large increased lumbar curve. So I managed to correct most of it, but I always had this dull L5, S1 kind of just dull ache. And I thought, well, that's the best I can get it. So I look at your Egoscue technique, laying on my back with my feet up on an ottoman, then doing the pillow work and doing the frog legs, arms over my head, doing the exercises. And within the first day, I noticed the dull ache is gone. I'm like, son of a gun. This Egoscue stuff, he's got something here. So he really got me intrigued. So I've been doing it every day for about 10 days. And I swear to you, I have this dull ache. I've had it for 30 some years. And I just say, well, it's my farm work. I'm flipping bales of hay and I play rugby. So you know, you're getting hit by young kids, 50 pounds heavier than myself.
Who don't know how to tackle the rugby.
They don't. That's why I have to use my head to not use my head to get hit, use my brain to not get hit. And I did this technique and all of a sudden my dull ache. And I literally spent about 12, 15 minutes a day because that's why I did my morning routine with my meditation. I thought, son of a gun, I love this. So what are these exercises? We're talking neck and movement, shoulder, which is critical. Everyone seems to have this anymore. And we're trying to reverse this.
Well, remember, we're talking neck, shoulder, position, not condition. I'm talking about the position of the shoulder, mid back and neck are going to be where the action is. The reaction, because we trapped it by turning the feet into 5 degrees, slightly pigeon-toed. And we're going to go through 2 tests first. Let's check it.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, are you able to stand up and do these?
Yeah. Let me take off my headset.
Yeah. And we'll just get the crowd. So what I want you guys to do is you stand up, just push your chair out of the way or whatever. And I'm going to stand up and I'm going to see if I'm going to keep this jersey on. Let's find out. I mean, it looks so good. we'll just stay and do this. And give me a second here, because I think this would be a good. Okay. Let's see here. When you start thinking about this stuff, I want you to think about it from the standpoint of, are we doing enough? Let's flip that around. Okay. Okay, so in this position right now, you start thinking, how does your body... Sorry, Doc, I was trying to do a Facebook Live for you, or a Instagram Live, but it doesn't seem to be working, but that's okay. We'll think about it from the standpoint of, you got to have a strong sock game. So I'm going to just show you the foot position first, but you got to have a strong sock game, and I do. So most people's feet are turned out like this, or one's turned out like this. Don't change that yet. Don't change it. Just stand comfortably. And when you're doing this, I want you to stand comfortably and check your balance. Like, what do you feel with your eyes closed? Everybody try this. What do you feel is changing? Where's your balance left to right? Which foot do you feel is carrying most of your body weight? Does it feel like you are loaded in just a right position, a left position? Are you loaded in your heel? Are you loaded in the balls of your feet, or what's going on?
You asking me?
Well, you're the only one I can ask right now.
I don't know if you're asking you. Well, I feel it in both. I feel pretty balanced, and I work on this. So I feel, and we actually have a test in our office. We have a bilateral weight scale, and 95% when they get on, they're 5 to sometimes 50 pounds heavier. I had one guy who was 75 pounds heavier on one side, and we can measure that. So I feel, as I close my eyes and I relax, I feel pretty balanced, both feet. Okay. I don't feel any swing or one side or the other.
All right. So now most listeners are going to say, well, I feel probably 60% on one foot and 40 on the other, or I feel 50-50, but where is it from front to back now? Do you have more weight in the balls of your feet, or do you have more weight in the heels of your feet? What do you feel is actually going on?
I feel it going right down through my arch.
Okay, good. So you're pretty balanced. So those of you that aren't, and let's take your feet now, and I want you to keep them comfortable wherever you are, and then I want you to just basically do this. Are you able to bend over and touch your toes? Are you bending like this? Doesn't really matter. Don't force it. Don't bend your legs. Don't worry about going all the way. Just, are you able to get down all the way to the floor? Just show me what you're doing, Doc. Holy cow. Okay, now I know why tigers eat their young. Okay, come back up again. I want to show this. Do it again. Show me that. Where is he? See the rounding in his mid-back. I want you to look at that rounding right there in his mid-back. Come back up. And where did you reach to, Doc?
About an inch from my toes.
Okay. We're not going to do any flexibility training. None of that stretching BS I told you about that they all teach us at the university level is amazing, which, by the way, it's absolute garbage. Let's go through some exercises now. So let's get your feet in this position. Take your feet from here and turn them dead straight, fist width apart, fist width between the big toes. And then I want you to slightly turn them in.
Okay.
Slightly turn them in. And the reason for that, let me pull up an old pair of Vans. Look at the curve to the front of that foot.
Yeah.
If I said that's straight, you can see how this line is kind of going outward. I have to get that line on the outside of the foot slightly turned in to get it straight. That's why I want you to think about that position.
Okay, perfect.
Now, in that position, that means that we trapped, hold on. That means with your feet straight, we trapped that muscle, the hip flexor that we were talking about, the psoas muscle. Because when you turn your feet straight, that muscle attaches up here it rotated your leg bone, and now your pelvis is going to adjust. That's where the reaction is going to be when the action is upstairs here.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. And the name of this podcast again is Make Pittsburgh Healthier.
Yes, Making Pittsburgh Healthy.
I love it. Making Pittsburgh Healthy podcast. I love that. Okay, so get your feet straight. Put your hands in a fist position like you're hitchhiking. For those of you that aren't 50, 60, 70, we'll explain what hitchhiking is later, not Uber. So you go like this and then open it up. So you're here, you're opened up nice and straight to where you can bring your fingernails and palms together. That locks your wrist out. Drop your arms to your side. If you moved, get your feet straight again. Drop the shoulders. Slide the shoulder blades together behind you. Hold that. Bring your arms up.
I'm going to
check your foot
reposition.
dock if you moved, right? So check your foot position first. Shoulder blades are pinned together. And now circle forward 40 times, just like that. Elbows straight. And don't allow the arm to come up into your peripheral vision like this. Keep it straight out to the side. I want 40 of those. 40 circles forward. Try to stay out of your traps. Drop them. Go into your rhomboid mid-back. Not the easiest thing to do.
I was doing this morning. I'm learning this new technique.
Elbows locked out. Don't bend them. Now go palms up. So your palms are up now. Now circle up and back. What's your age, Doc?
54.
So I'm 52. So for those of you that are watching Doc do this, if he had a sleeveless shirt on, we would for sure be saying sun's out, guns out. Hello. It's good.
See, I say that to my kids and they laugh. I say, that's all right. I'm still in the game.
They need to understand very quickly that there's dad strength and there's kid strength.
That's right.
I'll take dad strength.
Okay.
So then after 40 of those, you're going to get your hand in the same position, put it against your temple, right behind your ear, right behind your eye. Close them together and then open them up behind you. Let's do 20 of these. So you're here. Remember, your feet are straight. This is gliding that shoulder blade across your back like this. And I know you being the doc, you're looking at it going, well, anatomically, this is what's going on. You being the chiropractic doc, you're going, neurologically, this is what's happening. Well, what I'm saying is deep down the line, here's your reaction on that psoas muscle.
Huh.
You literally, I won't surprise you. Interlace your hands just like this. Push your palms away. Take it straight up over your head. Drop the traps. Arms back, look up, and just hold that for 30 seconds. Don't bend your elbows. Remember, your feet are 5 degrees turned in because that's what close chains this whole exercise together to fire the midsection at the pelvis. Making Pittsburgh healthy. Keep it held. 10 more seconds. And yes, just I know that we don't have any sponsors for this event, but I want you guys to know that I do cut my own hair in case you're asking. So I'm just saying, it's COVID-19, guys. COVID-19. All right, now check that. Move your feet back to a comfortable position. Now bend over, touch your toes. What's the difference?
My pelvis moved more and I went all the way to the floor, which is about 2 inches. And I didn't feel that strain right across L5 sacrum, where I felt that before it was stuck. It didn't while I was pushing through it. And I was literally about an inch or two from my foot. So I just got 2 to 3 inches more. But the pelvic movement was more, it was easy. It was gradual.
So now close your eyes. Where's your balance left to right? Now you were pretty balanced before, but what's it feel like now?
I'm actually a little bit in the front. Feels balanced.
But the weight's toward the ball of the foot a little bit, which is where
Maybe a little bit on the left too.
Okay. Now sit down in your chair, which was built by the lowest bidder, and just get comfortable. And what does that chair feel like now with your body sitting in it versus before?
My back feels comfortable. My back feels like I just had a 10-minute, 20-minute massage.
Perfect.
It just feels relaxed.
For free.
Yeah.
So think about this. You're buying a $3,000 chair because sitting hurts, but you're taking a $2 butt to that chair.
Yeah.
How about we give you a $3,000 butt and you can sit in a $2 chair?
Yeah.
You can sit at a basketball game when we open up again without a back on it, and you're comfortable sitting in the bleachers without going, man, I really need something to lean back against.
Yeah. And that's a constant with everyone. And I felt it with myself too. So I would stretch, and I didn't even like doing it, but I had no choice. You know, I'm at a track meet or something in the bleachers. I'm trying to stretch, do squats, do some quad stretching, psoas stretching. I'm like, God, I just want to get up and move.
Stretch, stretch, stretch,
Yep.
stretch.
And I didn't even like stretching, but it was like, what can I do here in the bleachers?
Well, yeah, you can't do like dynamic warm-ups at somebody else's track meet, right?
Right.
But I will tell you, if you were to walk around the 440 track like this, with your elbows back, shoulders down,
Yeah.
and just do one lap of 400 like that, get out of your traps and interlace together all the way, like a good Catholic. There we go. Now you walk around the track like that. That repositions your upper back temporarily and changes everything down the chain. And now you're walking, your heel strike and toe off will change.
So if I were to do that, people are watching. So you interlock the hands and you relax your traps, get your elbows back. Should you concentrate on keeping slight pigeon-toed or just walk naturally?
Walk naturally. Your feet will come in on their own.
Okay.
Your feet will come in when the shoulder says, I'm done overworking, points right at the psoas and says, you need to get out of bed and start doing some work. Because what happens is our psoas become so short, tight, weak. Vladimir Yonda, the unhappy triad, short, tight, weak. When really you don't try to lengthen it, loosen it, strengthen it, which is the opposite of short, tight, weak. You say, why is it short, tight, weak? Neurologically. And we think it's because the spinal position is reactive to a hip that's asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up the hip, the spine movement gets easier. You said it just now. Yeah. When I bent over to touch my toes, I gained 2 to 3 inches, but there was no stress.
Right.
Yeah. Guys, it's a game changer. Like, this is one of these things. That's why I must have done 90 podcasts since COVID-19 started. And my whole message is this: COVID-19 is a sport, train for it.
Right.
It's a sport. I'm not joking about it. I've had people in my family who have passed. This is not a joke. Maybe they passed because the underlying condition they were dealing with was your posture sucks. You want to get your body back to where you can breathe correctly, then move your body like I showed you with Conor McGregor. Get your body back to a hip-driven movement to be able to throw a punch from your hip, and then the arm leaves. Versus let me throw with my arms. Golf is the same way. Golf's so difficult for people, but I go out and play twice a year. I'll shoot 81, 78, 87 in that range. And I don't play golf, but I remembered how to play golf. And my body says, your body's in alignment. It's like riding a bike. Just get on and pedal.
That's interesting. So with these trained good muscle memory, if we keep the body in tune, alignment, posture, spine, that muscle memory that we learned 20 years ago just keeps coming out. It's interesting you said that. I played, the last time I played golf was probably 12 years ago, 15 years ago. And that summer, I didn't even pick up a club. And I used to shoot between 80 and 90. I never shot below 80. My buddy said, hey, come out and play. And I said, all right. They were having an event. I hit a few balls the night before. I went out and I shot a 79. He goes, and I beat him. And he was pissed because he's like, how did you do it? I'm like, I don't know. It's the first time I played this summer. He thought I'm lying. So then like 2 weeks later, he goes, hey, we're having another event. You want to come out since you shot a 79? I shot a 78. And that was the only 2 times I ever shot in the 70s. And it just came natural. And I guess it's, you know, we're looking at the body. If we train our body and we keep that, we don't have to keep aging with destruction. We're going to age, but we can still keep body function.
Look, this is a 56-degree Titleist Vokey wedge. Great club. Amazing club. But I don't care if you were playing Ping, Mizuno, TaylorMade. I don't care. No, I'm a fan of Titleist. I'm on the board with Titleist, you know, all that stuff. I get it. They're a great club and ball. But that angle of the club and that face does the work against the ball. All you have to do is drive the shaft. So it's like a whip. A whip at the end makes the snap, but the base of the whip creates the wave that goes through the leather. So my body is the base of the whip. The club head hitting the ball is the tip of the whip. I'm throwing a punch at you. I go like this. This is the tip of the whip. This is what drove the punch. It's no different for how you get off the toilet. I want everybody listening to this to think of me tonight when they're on the toilet.
You know they will now.
I know. Picture me going like this. Let me see how you do. Go ahead. Just sit there, do whatever, clean yourself, whatever, and then get up. And notice that you're getting up is like this. Well, it's time to get up. I better push with my arms.
Mm-hmm.
Versus let's get off the toilet and my legs do the work. People are losing the propulsion in their legs and hips, and they're gaining it in their upper back. That's a problem.
Yes.
That's a problem. You are no longer a hip-driven pooper. You're no longer a hip-driven athlete. You want to give your kid the unfair advantage. I showed you the video of my son when he was younger. And if you, anybody who has babies out there or grandkids, get that baby crawling as much as possible. I've literally had 55-year-old men, 60-year-old men come into the clinic talking about something. And I said, well, why don't we try an exercise? Come with me. I get down on the floor into the cat dog position. I bring their shoulder blades together and say, we're going to crawl across the room. Don't drag your knees because you will get a burn. And I just make them crawl for 1 minute across my office. And then, of course, they get up. They're like, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm crawling. And I said, yeah, but move your neck around now. Why doesn't it hurt? Because you reestablished a primal movement pattern that your body lost.
And I would bet these primal movements, one, like you said before, aren't even being introduced properly. So we never even gain them. And as we age, what do? We sit. We say, well, I used to play sports. I don't do it anymore. So we just don't, we've lost everything. And our primal movements are just locked in. So now we're getting destructive.
110%. And I'm going to look for something right now, just if I can see. Yep. I have this poster from the Czech Republic about these primal movements that babies make. And that's from Dr. Vojta. He's dead, but Pavel Kolaj, Vladimir Yanda, he's dead. He was a client of mine for 3 years. He's amazing. Amazing because he literally looked at Egoscue and said, like, this is one of the only things that I've ever heard, and it very much surprises me out of the United States that you guys are talking about something so primal. And for us, it was, well, yeah, because it came out of a guy with a Marine Corps background, a political science degree, who was dumb, Pete Egoscue, as it comes to anatomy. He'll tell you, I was the dumbest guy in the room, but that allowed him not to come in with blinders on. That created a what if this does this? What if walking with your hands on your head changes your heel strike? I mean, it's a game changer. And for you, Doc, I didn't talk about this yet, but I have a bike over here called the Carol bike. And it's carolfitai.com. Carol, FITAI.com. It's a hit-rehit bike. The biking is done in 8 minutes with 2 20-second intervals, 3 minutes apart, as fast as you've ever pedaled in your life. the glycogen depletion, all that. But I'm only bent over the bike for 8 minutes versus the P bike, you know, the Peloton, great community bike, the Echelon bike, another great community bike, but you're bent over for 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes,
Right.
bent over in flexion when you've been sitting all day long. Let's just make our body worse. And that's why we're getting fatter. I'm telling you right now, we're not moving to create the movement of the plumbing system in the body.
I've heard that Carol Fit, and I think it might have been from Dave Asprey's show.
It was. It for sure was.
Yeah, and I get interested in this. You know, I listen to these things. I'm always trying to add things in. So I'm always like, okay, what can I do to better my game? And I just don't want to better it just so I can play rugby. That's just like what I do for fun. But I want to be 120 without diapers. I want to be able to. The oldest guy playing rugby right now is 96 from Wales or something. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I could hit a record. I saw a long way to go, but I want to be able to do it. And these primal movements that I saw on the thing, your exercise obstacle course, the patch, and we'll have this. We won't have time to talk about this today, but we'll have this all on your YouTube links. So people, you can check this out. And some of these movements we could be doing at our home. I mean, these are easy that we can start integrating. And I look at it and say, if we can get these movements, these primal movements, this basic organic movement back, we don't need these hip and knee replacements. We won't need all these shoulder replacements. I mean, my God, this is just going across the board, younger and younger. And they'll say, well, it just wore out. I'm like, well, wore out because you were out of balance. You didn't take care of your body. You had an inflammatory diet. Your spine was out of place. You didn't exercise. What do you expect? You're lucky it lasted 50 years. So I love what you're doing. And it's interesting, you know, along with the Carol Fit, is we have to become, I think, smart about this because our time is getting limited. We don't have, and I think it's stupid to go into the gym for an hour unless you're doing a bunch of different things and you're having fun for an hour, but it doesn't have to be.
Just get on my Instagram and just start scrolling through it. Some of the old workouts that I do on there, just to show how bear crawls done correctly could literally put me out of business. I dare you. Bear crawls the way that people are doing it now in the personal training world. If this weren't a friendly show, I would drop the F-bomb. It's a freaking joke, dude. It's a joke. And what they're doing is they're going, well, that really fires the transverse abdominis and yeah, great. But with the pelvis tucked in that position, you're shutting down the circuit breaker. It's all about changing the bony alignment through muscle activation to create a different muscle activation to create a different central nervous system pattern. Very simply, do your exercises to become your own chiropractor and then start seeing Aaron because you want to, not because you have to. And he'll take you to another level. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's where it should be across the board is we should be selfish for ourselves, take care of ourselves. I've talked a lot about it on the show. You got to be a little selfish. You got to take care, but you got to be smart about it. And this adds the smart behind it. Everyone can do this. You don't need $1,000 worth of gym equipment. Just get on your hands and knees, start crawling. Or like I may do is I may start putting some logs out in my paddocks and along with my cows, and I'm gonna start climbing on these things and teach my kids.
Okay, first of all, don't climb on the cows. That's a bad idea.
I'm not gonna do that.
That's cow tipping from the Tommy Boy movie was where Chris Farley and Rob Lowe were doing it. It's not safe in case there's a stampede. But secondly, probably one of the greatest movies ever. Go onto my Facebook 2 days ago, and I brought up a 3-year-old post of where I'm doing stair crabs. Talk about a game changer from an athletic standpoint. Those of you with kids that are athletes, I dare you. Have them try to do it, and they're going to go, oh, but yet they're a really good soccer player. They're a really good javelin thrower. They're a really good football player. That's great. They're all really good until they're not. They're all really good until they don't get into D1, which was their dream. I gave my kid an unfair advantage. You will not grow up like a Californian. You're going to grow up like you're from PA. That's all there is to it. Running, jumping, climbing, hopping, crawling, that'll be your exercise. And my house shows it. Mini trampoline, basketball hoop. They play lightning. We play dodgeball. We play paintball guns constantly. And I was merciless on these people. Like it's me against 15, 7-year-olds. And yeah, they walked home literally bruised up. Their parents like, oh my God. I'm like, you signed the waiver. But you just got to realize there's fun in all this stuff. It builds the memories, first of all, but secondly, it builds a memory in their CNS to say my body's supposed to be here versus here, which protects their head against concussion.
Yeah.
That's the big one too.
Yeah. We would have been great neighbors because I'm out to win. I'm going to win as long as I can. When we play wiffle ball and kickball games in the backyard, when the kids pick, they're like, who's first pick? I get dad. They're like, we're winning. We have a pickup football game. We're winning. You know, I said, this is about fun, but we're winning.
Yeah. But let me tell you, for those of you listening that don't know what wiffle ball is, come on. How about PG?
Oh my God.
You take the little one and you tape it up and throw come on.
Oh yeah. We taped up the bat. It was great. Who doesn't know what wiffle ball is? Come on. So
trust me, dude. I'm in the land of fruits and nuts. You know.
Oh my gosh, that's a child. We played that every day. So
my kid thought that I was Michael Jordan for 10 years. My basketball hoop was on 7 feet, and I was dunking from every angle until he went, "Wait, Dad, that moves up to 10 feet." I'm like, "Dang." Okay.
Change it. So as we kind of come to the close, I could talk to you all day. I love this. And we are going to have all your links. And the exercise that I went through, Brian had me go through, is if you go to Egoscue everywhere, and I'll have that link, just hit it. Do this first thing in the morning. It takes a few minutes. It gets you set for a good day. Do it halfway through your day when you're sitting at your computer. Get up. Who cares what they think? I tell this to my patients all the time. I don't care who cares what they think, because you're going to be the healthiest one in your office. But what would your, like, as we close here, like, what do you want to say to end this? And I think a lot of people would be like, okay, where do I start? I'm going to have your links. You know, I would say, go to Brian's YouTube, start watching YouTubes, get on your back in the morning, get flat, start doing the exercises, do the everywhere exercise, stand up, get your feet pigeon-toed. Those two things, that's what I've implemented. And what else? I mean, where would you give them a starting point?
Number one is, I already gave your assistant my direct email, which is bbradley@egoscue.com. So my first initial last name. For any specific questions somebody may have. Look, it may take me a little bit of time to get back to you, whether you DM me on social media or whatever. But share the information, because there's a lot of people around you that are suffering. At least do what we gave you on here. Secondarily, if you're interested in doing something more, no problem. You know, I'm available. I have a team behind me in 30 different clinics in the US, 2 in Japan, 2 in Mexico. You know, if you need Spanish speaking, boom, I got them. You know, I have 4 or 5 people that are way better than my Spanish, which is non-existent. And it's but I will tell you, if you need help, we're here to do it. Secondly, if they just want to read a book and get more information, the pain-free book can be found at Amazon.com for like $15. Read the first 3 chapters, start doing those. It'll give you an idea of what Egoscue is all about. And I will tell you, I can't stress enough, the little things. Here's a set of, I just happened to stack them perfectly yesterday. These are my True Dark glasses. Mm-hmm. Okay? Daytime, midday, twilights are for later. And then I have a super red pair for late at night. It completely blocks the blue and white light that's looking me in the face with my ring light and with this. Yeah, I could be over here going, you know what, my eyes are getting a little strained. I put these on. Good. I look smarter, which I'm not, but it blocks, it just calms it enough. Yeah. Hey, that's not enough. Great. I'll go to the yellow ones and look like I'm going skeet shooting. But that really warms up everything. And it creates a mitochondria reaction that your eyes are absorbing, that your body reacts to.
Boy, I'll tell you, that would be a whole other show on the mitochondria and the energy. Let me ask you this. So where do you get your glasses? True Dark,
TrueDark.com, TrueDark.com. Wow. I have nothing to do with them in the sense that I'm just a huge fan of them. It's another biohack. So bulletproof coffee, a tablespoon of butter, 2 tablespoons of MCT oil. It's a game changer. Why do you blend it? Because it changes the chemistry of the water versus just mixing it. Blending it for 40 seconds or more. If people want to hear more, they can go to our podcast on Bulletproof Radio, which is that Bulletproof Podcast 429, Mastering Posture Pain Performance. Absolutely a game changer.
I'll have those links too. I'll have the True Dark glasses, the Bulletproof link. These are things in the book. I'll get this all on. And I really appreciate you. A couple of things. One, just being on, spending your time, because time is value. You are changing this world. I mean, you work with people. You work with Tony. When I heard you work with Tony Robbins, you're doing this to him. Get on the floor, Tony, and do this. I'm like, holy cow! This is the most profound, I would say, movement for. I don't even know what you call it, fitness, but it's a core. Primal movements that I see out there, and everyone should be doing this stuff. And I was just shocked as a chiropractor. I've studied this stuff. I knew of some of the techniques, but I didn't understand it. I never heard of Egoscue. So I want to do as best I can to get this out, get this to my chiropractors. And man, we should know this. And this is a game changer.
Well, and listen, if they, like I said to you before, from a business standpoint, if you want to bring Egoscue into your chiro business, PT business, whatever, more chiro, because a lot of PTs will fight this and believe that they're actually doing this, which they're not. I'm on Twitter all the time because I have these battles with people, and I never lose. I'm like you. I'm a winner. That's what I do. I don't do if, I do when, you know. And the one guy actually said to me, "You don't actually believe in this alignment BS, do you?" And I'm like, I'm sorry. If we go back to PT School 101, the ankle, the knee, the hip, the shoulder, the spinal S curve, those are your basics, and you've lost sight of those, yeah. Which is why you're frustrated as a DPT, because you're still treating symptoms. Stop it. Just stop it. Make a decision. Stop treating symptoms. I am no longer going to chase the symptom. Just stop it. Now, a lot of people can't because it makes them question their whole significance.
Right.
What about all my training? But doc, you're doing the same thing. You just said, no. I'm interested in what else is out there that I don't know. So am I. Which is why I do the glasses, which is, let's say the glasses were complete BS, which I know they're not.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the placebo effect. If I put a piece of pizza in my mouth, which I'm a huge East Coast pizza fan, and you take a good bite of good cheese pizza, and you say to yourself, oh, S-H-I-T, I'm in trouble. I ate pizza. Guess what? You're in trouble, you're fatter instantly.
Yep. Because
you created a thought, created a hormonal feeling. Thoughts are, what's the word thoughts are, oh, I just typed it in yesterday. Not thoughts are feelings. Thoughts are absorbed by the body, and it creates a chemical reaction, which is why we always go back to this blueprint, which you have the same blueprint.
Yeah.
When you lose sight of that, you're in trouble. So your friends in the chiro world will be very accepting of this. You and I will talk about the grid and taking pictures and all that stuff within your business. If you don't want to go through the training, don't do it. We'll just team up and we'll do it that way.
Yeah, I like that. And I used to do this. So I know how to do part of it. I'm gonna dive back in and start maybe listen to some of your trainings. And it's a very simple. I always say simple things can be very powerful, especially if you implement them the right way. They don't have to be complicated. And I have my blue light, my readers, my number 2s for my computer. So I love this stuff, and I love hacking and just implementing and people. And I say this on every show: implement, take the action steps, get on, start looking at don't just look at Brian's pretty face in Egoscue. Actually do it. Do the exercise, try it, give it a trial for a week. And, in my office, we just implemented this. I have a 2-week money back guarantee. I say, if you come into I don't think anyone does. I said, we try to get something ridiculous. I said, if you try my services for 2 weeks and I get my hands on you and adjust you, and you don't like for any reason, nothing, go ahead. I said, because I'm confident. I know how the body is. I know how powerful it is. We got to just keep going. So you're listening to this. Don't just stop this and wait for the next show. Implement, take action, take us up on this stuff, get on the link, start implementing these things and dive in. You won't regret it. I live way more than I tell my patients, and I tell them, look, you got to do this in the morning. And they look at me, I'm like, look, I'm doing this and I have a perfect spine. I have a 42-degree curve in my neck. There's no arthritis. My spine is the best spine I've ever seen in all the years. I've taken thousands of x-rays. Why do I do it? Because I want to be my best. You can do this. So I don't just talk. I walk what I'm talking because I take action. And I said, if it works for me, it can work for you. You know, we don't have to live this miserable, destructive life. So I love what you're doing. I think this should be added into every clinic and implemented. I'm going to start. I told my staff, I said, I don't know where we're going with this. I said, but we're making some changes. They always get nervous because they're like, oh boy. I said, no, this is good stuff, man. I said, it's the same stuff we're doing. We just up our game.
No, and I'll put it out there that in the chiropractic world, I do talks here at the California Chiropractic Association. For those of you that are chiros talking around the world, anytime you want to team up at one of your presentations that you're doing for one of your pain symposiums or something like that, I'm in.
Love it.
I look at this as let's share the information. I'm not giving you guys my intellectual property. I get it. You become certified by us as a posture alignment specialist. Yeah, we'll talk about the intellectual property at that point. You want to open up a clinic for us? I get all that. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be giving you guys something that says this should have been in your 5th year of chiropractic school. And it should be labeled this. Who's taking care of you, doc?
Yeah.
You should be taking care of you, because without you, all of these patients suffer. And when I was working for Health South, I had 2 physical therapists that put in for disability because of their back problems. I'm not judging it, but I'm judging the PT world at that point, going, keep chasing symptoms. And I love the PT world. It's where I came from. I'm heading back to PT school back in 91. And I'm going, oh no, okay, another 3-4 years of school. Here we go. Health South is paying for everything. I love it. Okay, no debt. But I had no interest in really going back to school or chasing symptoms because I didn't get enough out of my undergrad degree, not IUP's fault, but because I memorized versus learned, and what life experience has done over 30 years. Look, I'll flat out put this out there right now. I would love the discussion with the people who disagree with what I'm talking about. I would love the discussion with people who disagree with Pete Egoscue's philosophies. You can't argue facts. And if you need a double-blind study, then you're caught up in you're a sheep, you're following. I'm not saying those things are worthless, but they're manipulated to create an outcome a lot of times. So we need to start looking at this as, what is the subjective opinion about my customer? What do you feel? And go back to those 3 exercises. Your balance was better. You're sitting in a chair felt better. I touched my toes. Okay, that's provable.
Yeah. And my back still feels good. I almost always, before even implementing this, and this is I get adjusted every week. I work out. I do a lot of calisthenic stuff now. So I do a lot of body work, and it feels better for me. I think I'm in the best shape I've been in years. I feel great, yet I had that dull ache. And I would sit in the chair and I would squirm. I would have to move around. I'd hang over trying to stretch, thinking, it's just that dull ache, whatever. I don't have that. And that's just after, a week of doing, or 10 days of doing some of the videos I saw online, doing the technique today. So it works. And, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with what this is going to do, not only for me, but for all my patients. So thank you for being on our show. And one last question. This might be a fun one here for you. Do you have any crazy fun plans for the near future? Anything wild? You seem like a wild guy.
Well, I love Southern California. It's amazing. My son plays at Cal Baptist University, D1 soccer, loving it. But when I just visited Missoula, Montana, buddy, they're filming Yellowstone 45 minutes south, and they filmed A River Runs Through It, the Brad Pitt movie, about 45 minutes south near Hamilton and all that. You want to see God's country? They call it the last best place. And let's say you have California. So I grew up in Pennsylvania. My mom and dad bought their house for $15,000, their first house. Their second house they bought for $65,000, right? And it was, that's just Pennsylvania where we were growing up. The $15,000 house they sold for $35,000. It was a huge win. The $65,000 house sold for $105,000. Huge win. Southern California, you buy a $400,000 house and hold on to it for 15 years, you sell it for 1.1. And I look at that house and I'm going, okay, 1.1, if I sell that, okay, go out to Montana. I found this unbelievable house out there, new construction, black emerald doors rolling. I mean, unbelievable. 500,000. Now, listen, I'm saying that because it's half price or more, and you get the views, and you get 4 seasons, and you can open carry, and you can no sales tax. And I'm going, oh my God, what am I doing? But again, a mile away, I have the beach. I'm chronically sunny out here. Now, everybody, I know winter's coming, and I'm not talking about Game of Thrones, but Pennsylvania, winter's coming. So everybody's like, stop your bitching. We wish we could do it. I get it. But I promise you, you're going to miss Pennsylvania change of seasons. I promise you. I crave it. It's because that's what we're used to. It's home. So yeah, I don't have any real big plans other than not dying from COVID. I travel once a month. I fly on United Airlines, which has everybody's in their seats. It's full, completely full. I do get in conversations with people. When I go to Florida to work out of that studio, I'm in a hotel. I pick up my food. I don't go hang around. So I treat the virus for real, but I'm not fearful of it because, like you, Doc, I've trained for the sport of COVID-19.
Yeah.
So, my next trip will be to Hawaii whenever we open. I think Hawaii just opened back up where you don't have to 2 weeks quarantine when you go over there. So maybe we'll take a trip at Christmas, go over there for about a week, because again, that's only a 4.5-hour flight for us. So it's easy from the West Coast.
Yeah.
So I knew if I grew up in PA, I'd be like, wow, that's a trip. That's 10 hours. No, it's 4.5 hours from where we are. But then again, we're on hold for a year, right? That's what 2020 is. And going into 2021, we're on hold for a year. I just pray for this country. I love this country. I pray that all of the stuff that's going on calms down and we find some kind of centric position to come from. Whatever side of the plate you're hitting from politically, I don't care. But the further you're out to this fringe and the further you're out to this fringe, you are in deep doo-doo, not the people around you, because you're going to give yourself an aneurysm because you're so far left or so far right. Come back.
Yeah.
Symbiosis. That's our goal in my house, is just no drama. Turn off the news.
Yeah. Good advice. I love it. So if you ever come to Western PA, the Pittsburgh area, and you want to build one of the patch things, you have a place to build it. And you'll see
you guys have to, we got to figure out for you, because I know you probably have enough trees around your farm and stuff so you could do it, but we have to use a pressure treated wood because of the weather and all that stuff. The one we built at the 49ers, would I love to see this built?
Yeah.
Training facility? Absolutely. So anybody who knows anyone at the Stillers, I'm telling you, if they want the unfair advantage and to cut down on CTE symptoms, you better be doing Egoscue, because I believe we've cured long-term CTE symptoms, but the neurologist won't ever believe that because it can't be that simple. They're looking at the brain and I'm looking at the plumbing.
Right. Well, I'll keep doing my part. And I think as this Making Pittsburgh Healthy podcast keeps getting out, we keep getting names like yourself and more popularity. Maybe we get our way in, because who doesn't want another Super Bowl ring here in Pittsburgh? If you're a Pittsburgh fan, I mean, that's all we want. If they don't make it, yeah. I remember I had a T-shirt that said "One for the Thumb" in '81 back in the '70s, and man, I wish I'd have kept that.
Well, yeah, no, there's a lot of things we would like to do, but it's the Sixburg Steelers is what I call them out here, but then the Patriots got 6, so I'm like, but I love what the Niners did to the Patriots last week, so I'm not unhappy. You'll see that on my Instagram and Facebook too.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us and sharing so much wisdom. I appreciate your time, and I can't wait to meet you in person someday.
Brother, listen, Doc, I love finding exciting people who are excited about helping patients. And if for those of you who don't know, I mean, in my opinion, this is a chiro that I would resonate with and go for treatment, because I would say, hey, what's going on with me? Check it out. And he would see that his spine is second, because the number one spine would walk into that office if I walked in. So I'm just saying, I'm just laying it out there, Doc. There's a little competition.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
Brother, I really appreciate your time.